Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Novelists Unwind. I'm Johnnie Alexander. So glad to be with you today. And we have a very special guest, Caleb Breakey. We're going to be talking about Caleb's debut novel called The String. It's always fun for me because the writing world is so dominated by women, and to have a guy author on is always it's always a lot of fun. So Caleb, welcome.
Thank you. It's so fun to be a male writer, I guess.
It truly is. I mean, when we go to writers' conferences and things like that, it's a sea of women, and it's always nice to see the guys there too and get their perspectives on, just different things as the writing industry. But anyway, we want to talk, and I want to dive right into it. The String, your very first novel, though you have written other books, and we'll talk about that a little bit too. I read the first two lines and just was chilled. So I'm going to read those. I should have you read them. Can you show us your book and then read the first two lines?
Most definitely. So here's the hard copy of The String. Very excited about it. And it's been a long time in the making. My fiction journey started about 12 years ago. So it feels like not the first book. There's plenty of books in the drawer. But the book starts, the branding iron pulsated reddish orange in the corner fireplace. It was time. And that is the first couple of lines of The String.
And they do grab you. They truly, truly do. Yeah, it was fantastic. Tell us a little bit about the story, how you came up with the idea and what readers can expect from it, because it's just from what I read of it, I can't wait to read the rest of it. It's just gripping.
This was one of those stories that just grabbed me and kept growing over the years. So a buddy of mine was working as a university police at our local university, and I went on a ride-along with them. Just like, hey, you do ride-alongs? He said, yeah. And during this ride-along, this character called the Conductor started talking to me, if you will. And I just started envisioning a story set in a very small location, such as a university, and in a short time frame, 48 hours. A lot of the stories I'd written up until that point were more like the epic fantasies and, spanning a long time. And I just saw this antagonist coming to life over this small university campus. So I could see him kind of conducting things, basically, playing puppet master, if you will, and what that would look like for those if you were caught in that, and what type of protagonist would be the perfect challenger. And that's really what The String is all about. It's about a sociopath who's running this deadly social experiment on a university campus, and this university police officer is the first one to break what is called the string. The string's concept's pretty simple. Participation is mandatory. There's no backing out. And if you don't play your part, then not only will bad things happen to you, but also everyone who came before you. So you're carrying the weight of, is this horrible thing going to happen to me? And I don't want to be responsible for all these other things to all these other people. So should I just play my part? And a lot of emotive conflict comes out of that based on, hey, what would you do in that situation? Which I just love to write.
Yeah, I can tell it's just going to be an amazing read, because right away you're just thrust into this situation. I don't want to give away too much in the prologue, but I will say just that for the first chapter, it was like, I don't know if I can read this because of what happens then. And, I'll leave it up to you how much you want to talk about what happens in that first chapter. But then we do move, to your protagonist. And again, I mean, the action is just nonstop. How do you do that? I think, I mean, I don't want to get into a women-men thing really, but I mean, really this just is, it's just nonstop action. And I think that really does appeal to a male audience. It's great.
Yeah. I don't like to think in terms of just nonstop action. It's like when I watch an action movie. Usually if I'm watching an action movie, the nonstop action is kind of a, I can have a conversation during that part.
Yeah.
What really gets me is action that is moving the plot forward. And that's really what I wanted to hit. We're pitting these characters against each other and moving the plot forward relentlessly based on character action or reactions. And so, like, I'm not one for just like long chase scenes or elaborate explosions, or that the chase scene is kind of the perfect example of nonstop
Yeah.
action. Hey, first they go down the alley and then they get on an airplane and now it's a train, and it's like, it's great visuals, but in a book I just like to see the action and the reaction, and also the internal things that are happening. And coming from a journalistic background, I've always written a little bit more tightly, if you will. Probably some of that is influenced by my journalism background, just wanting to continue to move forward. It's always been a challenge. My wife is a writer as well, and she has very different strengths than me. And one of them is she's wonderful at fleshing things out. And that's been over the years, since my journey started 12 years ago, is learning how to even slow down, flesh things out. And even in the string, the hardest part about it was, how do you develop characters in a 48-hour span? Because not a lot of people change in that amount of time. Most of us are changing in the length of years or even a decade. Like in my 20s, I learned this. And so in future books, that's even something I really want to dive into more, is how can we continue to change as these, either horrific or mysterious or thrilling things are happening around these characters.
Yeah, I like what you said that too, because I know, like if a fight scene goes on too long in a movie, I get kind of bored with that as well. So what I think though is that it's what you said, that it's okay. Nonstop action may not be the right phrase, but I mean it just moves. I mean, we have Marcus in the situation in the SWAT training, and there's conflict right there immediately, and we see though through that this is a flawed guy, and we're not sure exactly what happened in his past, but something happened. There's been an event, and you want to know why. I mean, and so it's like, yeah, I've got to keep reading this because I've got to find out more about this guy. And then when I saw it was only a 48-hour time span, it's like, oh, so now there's the ticking clock as well. Great take.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love a couple of things that you mentioned there. Some of the things I love to do in writing. One, I remember in a workshop years ago taught by Donald Moss. He threw a bunch of pages onto the ground and said, pick one up. He said that there's not conflict on it.
Yeah.
Toss the page out. And so I like making sure there's always some sort of conflict on every page, whether that be one person wants to keep the window open, the other wants it closed.
Right.
That's conflict. And we will read because of that, because that's real life. Real life is conflict. Real life is, I want this, you want that. And then the other thing is, raise more questions than you answer. Now, in my past, and continuing to grow as a writer, has been a fault of mine. I hold my cards very close to my chest because I like to be, I like a mystery to be really hard to figure out.
Yeah.
I don't want to figure it out before the story's over. And so it's a real challenge to make sure you're raising the right questions, but also giving enough information so that the reader doesn't get too frustrated, because it has to be that give and take in the story. And I don't want it to be about me as the author. I want it to be organically from the story. The story needs to have that sweet tension of, I think it might be this, but ooh, what about that? And I love that. I think a good thriller has a good amount of intrigue and mystery in it.
Oh, well, I am excited to read. Like I said, I've only read the first few pages, but I'm excited to read the rest of it, because I think I'm just going to be staying up all night though when I do. So I have to pick the right time. Oh my goodness. Okay, well, you said that this is like 12 years in the making, and that is so typical with so many of the authors that I interview. It is not overnight success by any means. There's been a lot that comes before it. And this particular story you've been working on for a long time. So, tell us just about your journey. Like why did you start out with epic fantasy, and then you've kind of touched on this a little bit, but let's just delve a little bit deeper in what that journey's been like for you, maybe some ups and downs.
I read, I came late to reading. I had just moved out, got out. I was out of my internship. I was covering the Yankees from MLB.com. Just got a job in my hometown, and was 4 months away from being married. And I already was finding that itch. Someone had said, "Hey, you should really read this book." And when I heard there was an audiobook, because I was driving 4 hours almost every
Wow.
day,
Wow.
I started reading it. It was Ted Dekker's Circle series. And that was really my introduction to fiction. And when I saw myself in those characters, especially in the characters rooting against the character who depicts Christ that you find out later, it was an eye opener of the power of story for me, because I was like, I'm just like anyone else. Everyone wants to think, no, like, of course I'd be the one who would stand by Jesus. No, you're not. His closest disciples deserted it,
Exactly.
And so this like story to me became so much stronger than any lecture, any sermon, any sort of book I could read, textbook, whatever. Story was powerful. And so I wanted to write that. I wanted to transition out of journalism into writing story. And so there I was, about 21, and I started writing fiction. And because I had read Ted Dekker's,
Yeah.
trilogy, I was thinking epic fantasy, and that's where I started. And I finished my first book and started going to writing conferences and helping other teen writers write. And then I got some opportunities to teach at some conferences, and took, the journeyman and the craftsman course through the Christian Writers Guild, and just anywhere that I could enhance my craft, pitch to agents, talk with editors, I was doing it. And that started a long journey that has lots of twists and turns along the way, of writing nonfiction through Harvest House, of starting my own businesses that are based around writing. There's been a very long journey, but it's all started and been grounded in fiction. If someone were to say, Caleb, who are you? I'd say I'm a writer of stories. I write fiction. That's my strength. I'm a craftsman at heart, and I'm a marketer by need, and a businessman by need. And I'm those things are great. But when it comes to what gets me and my wife excited and we talk about, it's always fiction. It's always story.
Oh, that's really cool. I agree with you with that. I do marketing because I have to. I'd much rather just be in my own little world, writing my own little stories. Oh, that's fabulous. Talk a little bit about the companies that you have. I mean, I know that goes into more of a nonfiction kind of thing, but just to give us a little bit of background of your.
Yeah, well, even those companies come out of understanding just how hard it is to write and publish traditionally.
Yeah.
I went after it very hard for a long time. Many books in the drawers, many rejection letters. I'm friends with tons of agents and editors in the industry because they've seen my face dozens of times, because I was pounding on that door for so long.
Yeah.
And my very first company, Sermon to Book, came out of this idea of pastors have a lot of content, but I know the journey from having content even to publication is very long and very hard and difficult. And so Sermon to Book helps pastors take their sermons and turn them into books. And so I have a team of about 12 core people and about 35 contractors that we all work together to create books. And we do this not only for pastors, but our parent company is Speak It to Book. So we actually, coming from my journalism background, we will interview our clients to hear their story, their expertise, and draw it out of them, and then start writing their book. And it's really a done with you process where the content comes from them. We help fashion it in their voice, and then they make the tweaks and approval, and then we keep going until the book is finished. And we do everything from cover design, back cover copy,
Wow.
publication, platform building, kind of everything that after my first 2 nonfiction books did okay, but not great, about 15,000 copies sold, I realized I needed to become a marketer. And I actually stopped writing for 4 years to
Oh,
enhance this skill
wow.
of mine.
Wow.
So my own mentor has spent over $1 billion on online ads. That's the B, not an M. He's one of the best marketers in the world. And I latched onto him for about 4 years because I knew if I was going to write, I wanted to be able to reach readers. And so that's a
Good for
big part of my
you.
journey as well. And being
Wow.
able to come at writing from not just a craftsman heart, but a marketer's heart, it allows me to run things like these businesses, because I can help the author think through the 100 problems they don't even know that's coming.
Right. Right. Wow. That's a lot. You're a busy guy.
It's been a ride.
Okay, well, I'm going to back up a little bit. I'm going to go back to your wedding and your wedding money. Tell everyone what you spent your wedding money on, you and your wife together.
That's right.
Yeah.
Spent our wedding money on 52 books on writing fiction. That's all we wanted to do, you know, and my wife truly is the better writer. You will see her books hit the shelves before too long. She's working on it right now, but she's going to be mega successful one day.
Wow.
It's just a matter of time. But yeah, we are that writing couple. Like, we did a coffee date every morning for our first 10 years or so of marriage, and we still have those, just not quite every morning now.
Yeah.
And we talk about writing all the time. It's who we are. It's what we love to do, and we love talking with other creatives and opening our home and hearing people's stories, whether they're writers or not. I actually just stumbled across this. This wasn't planned on the interview, but this was back when I was working as a journalist. This has little numbers on it.
Yeah.
It's our budget when we were planning to sell my car and live out of a trailer so we could write more.
Oh my God.
And I just found that while we were unloading some boxes, and that's how dedicated, you know, we've been. And the stories go very far and deep, but we've always given writing our everything. It's only now that people are hearing anything about it, because we've just had our heads down for about 10, 12 years.
Yeah. And it takes about that long. I mean, again and again, like I said, it's like 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 years. It seems like that seems to be if you just keep at it, that seems to be like the magic threshold number. Some people earlier, I mean, there are those who come right out of the gate, but really, I think for the vast majority of us, it takes.
That's right. There's a great book out there I believe it's called Mastery, and the whole concept is you have to do something for 10,000 hours before you become a master at it, which I believe is about 5 years of working life, and I found it to be about double of that.
Yeah. Well, sometimes life gets in the way too. Writing's not always one of those things you can just do all the time without something else to get food on the table for your family. So
that's right.
Oh well, it's so exciting talking to you. I also wanted to talk about a quote of yours, and I don't have all of it here, but you talked about writing styles because you have been compared to some of the greats in our industry, and these writing styles are like vehicles. So I'm gonna let you expand on that a little.
Yeah, I mean, you have all sorts of different types of vehicles, right? You got your Jeep, you have your Camaro, you have your, you could talk about a road bike or a train, an airplane. I mean, even if you put it in terms of transportation, there's just so many different styles. And I enjoy going off-roading in a Jeep, and I enjoy being in a Camaro flying down a highway. And I think that goes to show you that each riding style, each vehicle is going to be a ride. A vehicle is supposed to take you on an adventure, and I love that. And we all have preferences, and we all write in a certain way. And, it'd be interesting to hear as reviews come in how people view my writing. I'd be curious how people view your writing in terms of that vehicle of what it is. But yeah, the vehicles are different, but everyone just wants to go on an adventure. And
I love that.
Some people love Jeeps. Some people love the fast car. And if you find that one person, you better believe it, they're a microcosm of a very large segment. And that's who you need to write for, because you don't need to write for everybody. My book is not for everybody. A lot of people are going to be, it's too dark, it's too this, it's too that. I understand I write for a certain type of people, and I have to be true to my own writing self as well, which is, I just believe that there's a lot of darkness in the world and a lot of light in this world. And because I have Jesus, I have no fear in exploring any of it.
Yeah. I was also impressed with the book that you read, the psychopath book, to get into the mind of a psychopath.
That's right.
Disturbing? I mean, you said you got strange looks from people, in the coffee shop when you'd be reading it, but I saw that on your website. But was it disturbing to you at all to read that book?
Not too bad. Coming from a journalistic background, I've interviewed hundreds, if not thousands of people. And I mean, I've had someone tell me straight up, oh yeah, if like the world was coming to an end, I have no problem killing you. Like, I've had people say that to my face, and I'm like, oh, wow, okay.
Yeah, wow.
Zero empathy. Like, you are a basic human of I must survive. And if that means survival of the fittest, I don't care who I have to do. And it blows my mind. But at the same time, I consider it a power to be able to step into other people's mindsets. I mean, the worst thing we can do is be like, okay, I want to believe that that person doesn't exist. Well, they do exist.
Yeah, yeah,
And
they do. Yeah.
I love being able to get into their mind because, frankly, Jesus didn't cast people away because they were weird or dark, or, I mean, he was dining with sinners and tax collectors.
Wow.
Why is that? And it was the people who were saying, what is he doing, that were in the wrong. So I want to acknowledge every type of person and wherever they're at, and they could be in a very dark place. I have friends who are atheists who could care less about what I believe and what I have to say about Jesus. That's okay, because they're going to see Jesus in me.
Yeah.
No matter what. And I will continue to be that light no matter what. And I hope that my stories don't shy away from where people really are and also where they can go, and the characters of who are going to be that bright shining light. And so it will always be an exercise of balancing those two and putting them together and seeing what happens. I think it was Martin Luther King Jr. said, like, darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that.
Absolutely.
And I love that.
Yeah, that's good. That's great, actually. Show us your book again. This time has gone so quick, and it always does on these interviews, but the string.
This is the string. I was so excited about the cover. It's funny now. I want to give proper praise to the cover designer here. I'm not seeing it on here, but if you find out who did the cover, they did such an amazing job. And right now I am working on a sequel. It will be very slow just because of how life goes and very busy. And the way the string was, I would have liked to have even more time doing it. I'm just that person who loves to really dive in. But the second book in the series is on the way, and I am enjoying the research on it right now.
The Deadly Game series.
That's right.
That's the name. So we want
That's right.
Keep a lookout for that. Will it follow Marcus again, or will you have
Most definitely. Most definitely. It is tentatively titled The Hive, and I'm very excited about it.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Caleb, this has been just so much fun. Getting to know.
Likewise, Johnnie.
Oh yeah, it really has. I can't believe, like I say, the time always just flies by so quickly. But thank you so much. I do have one last question I ask every author that I interview. When you're done, when you hit the end, you're ready to send that manuscript off to your publisher, what do you and your lovely wife do to unwind?
So I have a funny tradition that I do no matter what celebration it is. I always play the song Celebration by Kool and the Gang. And so I just say, Alexa, I actually can't say it right now because she's listening, but I say, play Kool and the Gang, and I crank it. And so that's what I did when I sent the book off.
That's great. That's one of the best answers I've ever had. I love it. And I do want to give a shout out to your dogs too, because I've got dogs. So, I saw the picture of dogs.
Oh, my constant companions.
Yeah.
Boone, Winnie, and Stormy. 2 mini Huskies and a Shiba Inu, and they are the absolute best. When I write, and I write longhand, so I write in a notepad, they will come and surround me, and they give me that energy,
Oh, okay. And I'm sorry, I thought we were done. No, we're not. You write in longhand.
I do.
You're about the third person I've talked to in recent months that has told me that they write in longhand, and I'm really thinking for a novel I've got future that I've got plenty of time to work on, that I may try to do that.
Got to get rid of that delete key. And for me, I'm on a computer all day long. I got to get away from a screen.
Yeah.
I read only paperbacks now. This world is inundated with screens, and I just need to get back to pen and paper, and it's very therapeutic. That's why I think the paperback's never going away. There was a time when people said, hey, ebook everything. And I was like, yeah, that's probably going to happen. I'm a millennial. I believe that. But also now that I'm at the tail end I'm one of the older millennials, I'm like, no, like paperbacks are what I get. That's what I buy. And I just think that we need that time of no screens.
I think that's really fantastic. And I know there's some science about that too, about writing longhand and how it can be just so helpful.
Very creative.
Do you write the whole manuscript in longhand and then go back, or do you do it in bits and pieces?
Yep, I do it. I mean, I do it in bits and pieces, of course, whether it be a couple pages, 4 pages, 6 pages. And then my sweet wife dictated every page of the string. She wrote it out for me in a Word document. Now they have technology. We're going to see about, if you've heard of Remarkable, they have something where you can write longhand and it'll transform it into text.
Right.
I'm going to test that out and see if it actually works okay.
Oh my
But
goodness.
yeah, so that might be something in the future. But right now it's just, here's my pages. If you could, put them in a computer form, that would be awesome. And my wife has done that for me and been my first read through throughout the whole string process.
Wow. I just love your partnership too.
Oh,
I really do. So when Brittany's book comes out, please make sure I know. We can
yes,
maybe
better believe
have
it.
her on here too.
And she's doing a wonderful job. She's running Author Turf right now. She took a break from it, but she has done a wonderful job even building up the middle grade community, interviewed multiple New York Times bestselling authors, and asked the funnest questions you will ever see. And that's why people like doing interviews with her. She just asks the absolute best questions. Check out Author Turf, especially if you're a fan of middle grade fiction.
Oh yeah,
Or
well,
young adult.
definitely. We'll put a shout out to that too in the notes. Caleb, again, just thanks so much. I mean, I didn't mean to just keep going, but
I love talking writing. It doesn't happen every day. It doesn't happen every day. And if people are interested in the string, go to getthestring.com. That is the best place where you can find it. You can choose where you want to, whether it be Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Christian books, indie bookstores, wherever you want. You can also get the first 3 chapters there. And also check out the audiobook. I was really pleased the way the audiobook turned out. And that if you like to listen to books like I do, Jason Culp did a really wonderful job.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. Okay, you got it. Getthestring.com. Also, there's a really cool book trailer there too. So,
Yes.
And a little bit more about Caleb. So thanks everybody. Thank you, Caleb. Thanks everybody for watching. We're always glad to have you here on Novelists Unwind. See you next week. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Johnny.
Thank you.